Hey, gals, guys, and otherwise. This is Jonathan O. Roseland.
I was drinking a sip of water, so I was not ready for that. My name's Noah. You probably know me better as Polyphonic.
Don't do the you probably know me better. You know better.
That's how I introduce myself on my other podcast, John.
Well, oh my god, dude, I forgot how torn you are between two worlds. You poor fucking thing. Hey, gals, guys, and otherwise, this is Jonathan O. Roseland.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to...
AKA.
No, I'm done with the AKA. I'm moving on. I'm just Noah, John.
We're in a post-polyphonic world now.
I'm the artist formerly known as Polyphonic.
It is safe to assume that by the time this episode drops, Polyphonic will be no more.
I mean, all I need to do is hit 1 million subs, and then I'm piecing into the night.
Oh my God! Well, now we have a new goal for this podcast.
Yeah. It's 1 million subs, face reveal, and gone. That's the game plan.
It's a face reveal that you see through a slowly closing door.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the end of
It's
Godfather.
a face reveal. The face reveal is a shot of me walking away and turning back briefly to look at the camera.
You just like smile and nod. And then walk away
exactly.
into the blinding light. Well,
Yeah.
that's great. Noah, formerly of Polyphonic, we're talking about issue number 41 today, in which we finally answer, what's the biggest time suck? The giant space baby or this whole effort?
You is the time suck.
Great. Well, let's take a closer look. I could say that now because it's up for grabs.
All right.
We're in it.
Should we get started with this cover?
Let's get started with this cover.
Not any other cover.
What is this cover?
This cover. So this cover is an action shot. We've got Marco in the front with the bat shield that he got from, what's her name? Do you remember her name? Ginny?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's Ginny. Anyways, the bat shield and sword looks like he's like deflecting a laser beam, and behind him is Alana with a laser rifle firing a beam, and it's all kind of washed in this green light like the lasers here. It's a pretty, honestly, as far as this is not to disparage the cover, because like everything Fiona touches, it's magic, but as far as Saga covers go, I don't think it's that spectacular of a cover. You know, it's a pretty normal Saga cover.
This is, I described this in my notes as just a really good comic cover.
Yes.
Like this is something that you'd see on, this would be the best cover on all the other non-Saga comics, essentially.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we've gotten a string of the characters in the void for the covers.
Yeah, that's
recently.
true. Yeah. And it's all this like gradient void too. Like there's a ramp behind them. Yeah.
And it feels very appropriate because we have so much nighttime on Fang. And I like that we kind of transitioned into those void covers with the Isabel and Hazel princess cover.
Pink Void, yeah.
And we get Pink Void, great band. We get a few stars. It looks like some stars in the background. Well, actually, I don't know. Is that stars in the background, or is it her like casting a spell? Because they're around her finger, but they're also kind of sprinkled around. I'm gonna say they're stars in the background, but strategically placed.
Are you which?
The princess cover.
Okay, you're no longer talking about the cover that I'm looking at, because I was like, where the hell
but
are
I'm
the
saying
stars?
there's. That's what I'm saying. It's almost like they transitioned into the void with the covers, because we started this arc with the big wraparound battle cover.
Yeah.
And then we started to get into the void, where it's just like it's one of those very Fiona Staples things, where it's like you can't really tell if it's abstract or if it's just using space very strategically.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's mostly abstract, but it's appropriate that we get the void with these ones, because we're all like, so much of this series takes place at dusk or night. in this this arc.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I really don't have anything to add to that.
Ooh, last thought. A tight 39 minutes for this episode.
Tight 39. Tight 39.
I was thinking, because that struck me the same, where it's like, yeah, this is a solid cover. It's even the what they use on the volume 7 cover is this cover, which is interesting, I guess, because it's an action shot. I was thinking how much more impactful this cover would be if you could see Alana's pregnant belly.
Yeah,
better.
you can kind of get the edges of it, but yeah, I agree.
If you just swapped their positions, or just made it just her, and if it was just a fully pregnant woman shooting a laser rifle, then that would be so much more Saga.
So we got a couple notes for you, Fiona.
Yeah, you're doing, sweetheart, you're doing great.
No, don't. No, John.
Honey, you're doing great,
John,
honey.
no. John. John. No. All right, let's get into this
we
issue.
We have become assholes. So let's get to scene number 1.
We open on a splash page of a haggard-looking petrichor, her clothes torn, a blue magic flame in her hand. She says, "We're all going to die," and I don't mean eventually. We turn the page and see that she's talking to Jabara. Petrichor tells her about the blue cap and the time suck that Fang is headed toward, but Jabara seems calm. She says that God will keep Fang safe. Petrichor interrupts this preaching to say that she smells something unfamiliar in the air. And we cut away to see on top of a nearby building, there is a ship parked there. A ship that looks kind of like one of those helicopter seed things. And bam, that's the scene. That's how you do it in a tight 39, John.
There we go. Is there a name for, does anyone call them something other than helicopters? Seeds?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I knew I called them helicopter, but I was self-conscious about you making fun of me for that because I didn't know whether that was a Canadian thing or not.
I literally just have in my notes the helicopter seed ship.
Yeah,
and that's it.
But it's also funny because it looks nothing like a helicopter.
It functions as such.
I also I love Saga's ethos of ship design because there's a lot of a lot of talk of Star Wars ship design, famously, the Slave One is a street light, and the Millennium Falcon is a hamburger with a bite out of it, and stuff like that. And it's Saga takes that one step more direct, and it's oh, what about a ship that looks like a helicopter seed? No, what about a ship that is a helicopter seed?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting kind of take on, because the big thing with Saga, or with Star Wars, that they talk about a lot with the design of it, is that it's very simple shapes. They use a lot of simple shapes. It's not a bunch of stuff stuck on other stuff. It's a TIE fighter is line, circle, line. X-wing is just an X, and it's just they're very restrained in that to make it very iconic and very easily recognizable. And so I like the idea of that parallel thinking of, let's just make it objects. It's a train, let's just make it a dragon.
The other thing I love about this ship is, as we will see later in the issue, am I allowed to spoil later in the issue? I think I am.
Sure.
It belongs to the March, and I love the way the helicopter is the twin seeds stuck together. The March, I love that. It's just a nice little parallel.
Do you think that's how the March, their origin story, is that they were two seeds, sperm stuck together?
I think that's how
and
birth
they turned
works,
out that way,
right?
Yeah.
Actually, I guess I don't know.
I think it's just two twins, non-conjoined, just one is holding the other one, and the other one's got their arms sticking out.
And the
which
hands
by that
are
logic,
the exact same.
But by that logic, it's probably the the feminine one is carrying the masculine one with the big bulky arms.
Yes.
In the masculine
I
sticking
love
their
that.
arms out. Okay.
Except
well, now
that we
we've
literally
established
see
that,
their chest all the time.
I think that they're using some kind of holographic technology for that for sure.
Okay.
But
Okay,
I think
new
another
theory.
John theory in the books here. Another thing, just to come back to what we talked about last episode.
Yes, the blue
talking about
sky.
how good the blue lighting here is, and how smart it is to match that with the blue flame of the wreath spell casting light. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just the blue sky is this like real ominous reminder that they're closing in on the time suck. I think it's interesting too because I think we're starting to see a bit of a different side of Jabara in this scene a little. Starting to get to know her a bit better. It seems like she's hiding something. When Petrichor comes, she says, "Dearie, you can't believe everything you wrestle out of those blue caps. They're as unreliable as they are aggressive." And the blue cap did not seem very aggressive toward Petrichor.
It seemed like, but also, here's the thing: Petrichor's all beat up.
Yeah.
And is this implying that like she literally just had a fucking battle with this mushroom and we did not get to see it? Because I'm pissed about that.
I kind of assumed it was just like her like rushing back through like the swampy water and stuff like that. Like she was just like
But then she also says, "I did ... persuade one of your local fungi." So like, yeah,
that's true.
It's just it's
a weird little because maybe that's something where there was something like left on the editing room floor or something like that.
It's probably a deleted scene.
Yeah, because last issue,
where are those pages?
I'm trying to find the exact like. I don't think we missed anything. Like yeah
no. She's just told about like where are we going. Actually, the real question is, where are we going? So, I mean, it's just, they didn't.
She's literally walking around, and the blue cap goes, "Lose something, dearie."
I mean, just beat him up for that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something that's a weird little incongruity.
Yeah, but yeah,
we're just tearing Saga apart this episode, John.
As long as we keep it at Type 39, if that's what we gotta do. We gotta be a teardown podcast to keep it at Type 39. I'm all for it.
I know Teardown Media famously is well edited and runs nice and short.
Always a Type 39.
Tight 39 hours.
Also, one thing that I wanted to touch on a bit is it's just, I think it's interesting that Petrichor has this, which I'm just now making the connection in my mind, has this like bizarre, unnaturally good sense of smell, and I'm just now making the connection that her name's literally in reference to a smell.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting, just like that's, we don't necessarily see a lot of, we see these little quirks with characters that generally go unexplained, like Sophie having that connection to Fang and stuff, and but I just think it's kind of cool, and I wonder if we'll I don't even wonder if we're gonna get. I highly doubt we'd get any sort of explanation for why she's just bizarrely good at smelling, but I just think it's a cool little. I love that Saga can do character quirks that probably should have explanations, but just don't, because everything in the world just is
people just are able to do stuff
absurd. Yeah,
but it doesn't feel forced. Like it's not like this is some like wild power. She's just real good at smelling shit.
Yeah, she just smells stuff. She's a smelly.
Anything else for the scene, or are we good to go?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right.
We pick up where we last left off in the end of the last issue, with Prince Robot IV pressing, or I guess Sir Robot now, pressing his arm blaster to his own head. Alana pleads with him, saying Squire would be haunted for the rest of his life, and that he doesn't want to do this. Four responds, No, but perhaps it's best I finally do what's right, instead of merely pursuing what I want. On the back half of that sentence, an image of Alana with a ball gag in her mouth appears on his screen. Alana is disgusted by this and covers his screen. He has no idea what he's projecting. That's when a very confused Marco walks in. For redirects the blaster towards Marco in surprise, as Alana tells Marco to grab the Eiffel Ray from the Ozit clay. I assume that says wrong.
Everyone knows robots don't speak Pig Latin.
I love the idea of that. That's the one way to trick their wiring. Marco starts his usual no need for weapons spiel, but he's interrupted by Four yelling, "Die Mooney cunt," with the word sorry on his screen. And no, it's sort of in that like dark green, ripply, gooey, deflated Mylar balloon. It's like backlit by a sort of light green light with it's very sloppily written.
I got it. Yep,
and that sort of fadeaway font.
Yes.
So Four blasts Marco, who uses the bat shield to block the shot, sending him flying backwards. He slams into a wall and goes unconscious. Four has a moment of clarity and regret, just as Alana clanks the table lamp against the back of his head. He hits the ground with a blue error screen. Alana kneels beside Marco as blood pools around his head. The HTN wraps up by saying, "By the time they're out of preschool, most children have already seen thousands of acts of violence." And a lot of action, a lot of high stakes here.
I love how when Robot like turns around and says enemy contact, his pose with his cannon out and like his other hand is up. It kind of looks like he's like it's fencing, you know?
Yeah, like fencing. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, which I think is fits thematically with the like medieval robot thing.
I love that. I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
I like the bad trimp. Bad trimp. I like the bad trip.
Yep.
I just like the bad trimp, dude. You know what I mean.
I also love the shame in Robot. The "what am I revealing? I implore you, look away." Like he doesn't actually know what's on his screen, which makes me wonder. Like, I feel like he can consciously choose to put stuff on his screen, but sometimes stuff just unconsciously goes there.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's, when he's in some kind of certain psychological states, almost like a self-control type thing.
Yeah.
He's dreaming or he's high or whatever.
Or we've also seen it in like moments of intense emotion, yeah.
Yeah, I think my favorite is still the swirling screen when he's interrogating.
Yeah.
So fucking rad. I also just really like, because it's a very complicated 180 line throughout these two scenes, the end of last issue and this one. But I really like the first of all, they can get a little disorienting because it's a very hectic, disorienting scene, and everyone in it is disoriented. But I really like the going from the first page to the second page here, having that 180 line on the other side of the room. And then we have Marco walk in, which is still on that 180 line. But it's so cool that we usually get the white background with, just the character, no background, for, things that are like, we noticed a lot where it's people are smaller in it. And so it gets away, like it gets rid of the clutter, the details and stuff. But I like how this is kind of a way to make it a blank slate to break the 180 line, because you have to get readjusted again. And then to have that with his, and this is also a great eyeline thing, of have him spinning around too.
Yeah, he's pivoting, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just a really cool way to break the 180 line. I like it.
I also love him, like, he's looking directly at the reader in that blank panel, which I always really like. I think Fiona Staples does that well. Man, Robot is, it's interesting to think, like, how you mentioned the interrogation scene and just like how much of a wreck of a man he's become. How he, like, when you first meet him, he's so cool and cold and in control, and he's just an absolute fucking mess here. Like, honestly, his arc has been so interesting. It's just like your mention of the interrogation scene just reminded me how far we've come with him. I think when you read this, like, you know, one issue at a time very closely, sometimes you don't notice the macro changes, and he's really like we're seeing a man literally hitting rock bottom here.
Yeah.
Except I guess he's not literally hitting rock bottom because he's literally hitting a lush mossy carpet.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that I think one of the most well-defined characters in this, in terms of like personality and what you can imagine them saying or doing versus what you can't imagine them saying or doing. I think that it's interesting that the grayscale guy with no face is one of the most like specifically characterized people in this comic. It makes me really happy.
Yeah, and is characterized in such a human way. He's such a human character.
And yeah, it's all those small little subtle things like that slight difference in font, and like you point out with the fencing pose and stuff, where they find such cool ways to convey that. Also, can we just appreciate
Clank and Wunk?
Clank and Wunk are fantastic, and I can't wait till those characters show up in the next arc. But
Clank and Wunk was my favorite 90s video game.
I was gonna say I love how much they are always conscious of, and this is very hard to do, especially in a comic that has such a strict sort of economy of panels in space. The fact that they always show the transforming and untransforming hand for the arm blaster. We get a really good one where it almost looks like a baggy sleeve, like it's like transforming back up into his arm, which is cool to imagine. Yeah, I appreciate that like, you know, I'm sure we could go back through and find if there are times that they don't include that, but I feel like I always notice them doing that. Yeah. And that's just a really tricky detail to keep track of for everyone involved. So we see you. We appreciate you.
I also just love everything about this lamp. Like, you've got the lamp. We literally talked about the lamp with Andrew last episode. When Alana's telling Marco to grab the Eiffel Ray, we see her picking up the lamp. Like, this lamp is very well telegraphed that it's going to be important, dating back to last issue.
Chekhov's lamp.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing I want to point out from this scene is especially, you know, observing Haley's lettering regularly. I kind of spot those panels that it's like, I know it was tough to figure out how to make this work, and I like how elegant of a solution this is. But when Marco walks in, the panel prior, we get him saying Alana from off panel, and instead of the normal off panel, literally the tail going to off of the panel, it instead disappears behind Prince Robot and shows up in front of Alana. So we literally get that again to help with that 180 line and the understanding where everyone is, like the blocking of the scene. We get where he is spatially between them. And I like that idea of it being off panel, but just coming from behind someone else instead of literally. Yeah,
that's such a little invisible thing that helps orient you. I also want to quickly note the panel where Alana hits Robot. Mm-hmm. The motion in that is really great because we have her hitting on the backswing after hitting his head, right? Like it's an interesting thing because her arm's actually flying backward away from him after hitting the head. Like it's an interesting movement, and you really get kind of the idea of the whole arc that she did.
And again, it helps with, like, you know, your eye line kind of emphasizing that swing. It's good shit.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
Good scene.
Good shit.
Next scene?
Scene number 3.
So we get the THN. By the time they're out of preschool, most children have already seen thousands of acts of violence. Granted, for the average kid, these acts are mostly fictional. And unlike the real deal, fictional violence is cool as shit. Beneath that, we see Hazel and Curdy playing hide-and-go-seek. Curdy's hiding in some sort of tube when the March appears and starts speaking with him. They pick Curdy up and put a sword to his throat, calling out that they wish to speak to Marco and announcing that they've executed Isabel. Alana watches from high up in the rocket ship tree. We end on a shot of Hazel covering her ears, and we get THN. The sight of actual violence sucks, but it's the sound that always bothered me most. Shit's picking up. Shit's getting tense, and it's interesting. I really noticed this because of the way that we summarize the scenes, but as this arc has been going, this issue, these scenes are short and snappy. Like, you really get the sense of a lot of things happening in a short time because of how, like, quickly paced these scenes are.
Yeah, and they really keep up that tension too. In addition to those quicker scenes, you know, we literally just somewhat resolved the end of last issue, and we immediately get into a new like high stakes tension thing. It's fucking relentless now. This fucking arc, dude. Oh.
The big takeaway from this scene for me is that I believe, did we know before, or is this the first time we learned the name of the grizzly boar or whatever it's wereboar? What's the pig called?
I think in the scene that Isabel dies, we learn its bootstraps. I think we have so much shit to talk about.
It's just an adorable name. I'm in love with this little pig.
Well, we're gonna get into some interesting bootstrap stuff next issue. It's a very Avatar: The Last Airbender. Just like we combined a thing with a thing.
Yep.
It's a grizzly boar.
It's
just good wordplay too.
Yeah. I mean, good wordplay. It feels like so much of Saga comes from the idea of wordplay kind of made physical, you know? Like, there's so many things that are just, like, amazing names that are then given this physical personification. It's so fun.
I like to think that, you know, when Brian K. Vaughan was just sitting in his apartment and just, like, saw his cat lying down, he was like, wait a second.
Lying cat.
Wow.
Lying cat.
And then this universe exploded in his mind.
Yeah.
It's this brilliant wordplay. I do love that lying cat. Really, like, it's become so just commonplace and sort of synonymous with the character and stuff that you don't really think about it. But that really does feel like one of those, and this happens with me constantly with writing, one of those things where you just have a placeholder name for the character and it just sticks around.
Yeah.
and it just you become so endeared to that placeholder name.
I'm also a big fan in this scene. We've got the glow bugs are back, and they're just again, just the look of they're such a little piece of world building that will play in shortly, but also just like look so pretty and add this weird like psychedelic tinge to this scene. Even in this like dark space, they look like little bits of confetti.
Yeah, the vibe it was giving me in this scene, I think just because of the tone of it, but it's that thing of like when there's a fire in a movie
and there's
you get
sparks.
the little cinders and sparks and stuff, where it's just, you know, just adding to that tension on a very subconscious level. Those are gorgeous.
I also like that on the panel where it says, unlike the real deal, fictional violence is cool as shit. Hazel is doing the ready or not, here I come, and says, and if you jump out and scare me again, I will punch you. Which again, like, really leaning into it's interesting throughout this arc. We've seen a lot of the violence that Hazel has in her as a child raised in an incredibly violent environment, right?
Yeah, and that's something that we mentioned last episode, but we just didn't have the time
Yeah.
talk about it. We're on such a strict 39 for that
tight
last episode.
39, yeah.
But I mentioned it going into this issue. Was they just straight up talk about, it's weird that such an anti-violence comic has so much violence.
Yeah.
And I love that's kind of the and unlike the real deal, fictional violence is cool as shit. That reminded me, did you ever see that Tarantino interview where he's asked why his films are so violent, and it's like a very antagonistic interviewer, and he's just like, because it's so much fun, Jan. It's just like, yeah, that is it. Like, it is, you can draw that distinction between the fictional and the real without, belittling the other.
That's something I've been struggling with as a writer in my novel that I'm working on, because it's like a pirate action adventure thing, and I really I don't like violence, and I don't like killing people, but also fictional violence is fun. It's sick. I love writing sword fights. It is such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm someone who is like absolutely obsessed. Go watch my Spielberg video to see. I'm very passionate.
Wait, you make videos,
action.
Sean?
This is a former life, Noah.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I was a young man then. I'm very passionate about how action is done, but I'm also like, I am the last person to like. I don't like slasher film, or I don't have the inherent enjoyment of slasher films, where the payoff is you see
Gore.
guts and
Yeah.
gore. But I would highly recommend to Noah, and anyone listening that feels the same way. There's a film called You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix, and I believe it's an Amazon Prime film, but he plays like a sort of muscle hitman guy. It's Lynn Ramsey, who is one of the best fucking directors, and did We Need to Talk About Kevin, which was an also amazing movie, also very much about violence. But this is a film where it has some of like I think it might be the first film to really portray violence in a sort of ethical way, or a very at least conscious way, where it's like it almost turns its head away from violence, but in that way it makes it even more impactful. It's a really just going to it as someone who struggles with watching things that are too violent, and trying to figure out like what are alternative ways to portray this. Check out that movie, because it's really well done.
Yeah, I think it's interesting and clearly very deliberate that they're drawing attention to that violence. And on the last panel, like the last panel there is pretty harrowing, of Hazel covering her ears. She's got the thing that Fiona Staples does that like works so well, where she'll like make the shadows around the eyes really like heavy and dark when people are like really kind of like harrowed or scared or traumatized. And like the fact that like Hazel, especially in context with the narration here, that she's covering her ears because she knows like what is about to happen, because we've read her in several of these scenes before. Like, one of her earliest memories is probably Quain's face getting smashed in by that mace, right? Like this is something she's experienced a half dozen times before. It's like she knows what's coming, and that's a pretty like bleak thing for a child. Right?
Yeah, like, I mean, that just feels like a really insightful thing. Like, that's something that is very resonates a lot. Is that it's the sound that always bothers me the most. Where it's just like it is an embodiment of that. Like, not seeing something is more upsetting. And because it's it's how your brain fills in those blanks.
Yeah.
So, when I hear like a clank or a wonk, then, I'm just picturing the most gruesome things imaginable.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many wonks and clanks are lodged in my mind traumatically.
Yeah, I was in a pretty bad car accident in the fall. Luckily, everyone in the car was okay, but the car was totaled, and like the clank, the sound of that, the sound and the smell of it was so
Oh,
visceral. Yeah,
dude, yeah, that is, I feel like a lot of people would agree with, if you've ever been near a car accident, especially since, a lot of, like, if you are not directly in the car, like, most car accidents, you don't see them happen, but you hear them, and it's just such a distinct sound, and so scary, and just, like, yeah, it's not fun. I don't recommend it.
Also,
I'm sorry to hear that you were in a bad wonk.
oh, it's all right. It's all right. The car got wonked. We turned out okay.
You weren't clanked in the process of the wonking?
No.
Whew.
The other thing that this sequence really reminds me of, and in general this whole arc, yesterday it's been on my to-read list for a long time. I finally started reading Persepolis.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is, for those that don't know, an autobiographical comic by a writer who grew up in Iran during the Iranian Revolution. And it's very much like the themes are very similar to this arc, talking about kind of like just showing the way that children growing up around violence and war, how it just warps your experience of growing up, because like children don't fully understand things, but children also aren't dumb. Like kids pick up on things, and kids learn from adults. So there's scenes of her like playing around and pretending to be the Revolutionary Guard and stuff like that. Like all of that reminded me a lot of this arc.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised I didn't think of that, because it's I very much recommend going to read Persepolis if you have enjoyed this arc, or if you haven't enjoyed this arc for those reasons, then go check that out. It's one of those reads that'll just stick with you forever.
You know it's good because it's one of those comics that is celebrated by people that don't read comics.
Yeah, it's one of the good ones.
Yeah. It's a graphic novel. It's not a comic.
Oh my god. There's an amazing shop around here, but they use more than they say comics, they say graphic literature, and it irks me to my core.
Love
the
that.
Shame
love
of,
that.
The shame of.
Love rejecting the very name of the medium.
This is some sequential art club bullshit that I am not behind.
We don't play music. We organize melody and harmony.
Which is why rap is not music.
It is. We don't play music. We create acoustic paintings. It's acoustic literature.
God, you are actually. This is what she means when it's the sound that always bothers me most.
This is the sound of violence.
Last question about this scene. What the fuck is sardines? No, I don't know what sardines is.
I have no idea, John.
Okay.
Wait, I'm going to do a quick Google. Vamp.
Okay.
Vamp.
Here we go. Welcome back to the Johnny in the Booth radio section.
Okay. Sardines.
And that's our show.
Sardines is hide and go seek in reverse. One person hides and everyone searches for them. That sounds like the odds are deeply stacked against one person.
Sounds like fucking mob justice.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I mean,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that sounds.
And I really want to play it though. I do want to play this. Let's get together.
That sounds
for some
horrific.
Sardines.
Yeah, let's do it.
Challenge accepted. All right, let's go on to the next part.
Yeah.
Back on Wreath, Gwendolyn, Sophie, and Lion Cat walk away from the outhouse TARDIS, discussing the moral murkiness of the deal that just went down. The HTN continues, to this day, I still prefer the silence of space to the rhythmic dins of the worlds like my mom's and dad's. Peace always sounded nice, but peace and quiet is the dream. The trio suddenly hear from off-panel, Sophie, you're all grown up. They see the Will and Sweet Boy, backlit by the sunset. Gwendolyn looks mildly horrified, saying, "You look unwell." Of course he would fat shame Gwendolyn. The Will responds, "Don't be cruel now. Just going through a rebuilding phase is all." He explains he's here to make things right with Lion Cat. Gwendolyn points out that it'd be cruel to separate Lion Cat from Sophie after they've been together for years, and that's why the Will wants to take Sophie along too, to show her how to be a proper freelancer like him. Lion Cat confusedly calls him out on his lie. Not sure what the lie is. He corrects himself, saying he isn't technically a freelancer anymore, but he'll show Sophie the ropes while he sets things right with the union. Gwendolyn is disgusted by the idea, but Sophie says she's old enough to make her own choices now, and she's seen that the way to enact real change is through politics like Gwendolyn, not by killing individual men like the Will's paid to do. But Lion Cat can go with him if she wants. Suddenly, Lion Cat finds herself awkwardly caught between the two of them. After a beat, she timidly crawls behind Sophie. The Will, defeated, begins to walk away. Gwendolyn calls out to him, "Wait, you can't just show up out of the blue and then disappear, Will." He calls back, "That ain't my handle anymore. Good luck with the politicking, ladies," as he and Sweet Boy walk into the sunset. Fucking tough on the heart scene for me.
I just love that, like, especially in comics, but in general in stories, like, I think sometimes people get a little too caught up in the nitty gritty of figuring out, why are they meeting at, like, this place, or like, what are the odds that he tracked them down as soon as they left this, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's fucking beautiful. Because it looks absolutely gorgeous, and comics are a visual medium.
I literally had that thought because, 10 minutes into trying to figure out shit to say about this scene, I was like, hey, wait, why is he meeting them here? And then I very quickly realized, there's no reason, and I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
like it's fine. Who cares?
It's such a beautiful setting for this. Like, it works so well. That shot of the Will and Sweet Boy, honestly, like, you can imagine in the movie, like, the swell there as, like, the Will's theme comes in, but, like, it used to be all, like hard and grizzled, and now it's kind of, like, sad and mournful, it's such a moment, and it's such a beautiful place for it to happen.
We really raised the stakes for Haley composing music for this episode, so good luck with that one. I'm sure you nailed it. But yeah, no, and then also the fact that we get to see what sunset and magic hour looks like on this yellow sky planet, which is already like this rad, like, yellow to purple gradient.
And honestly, like, this is such a, like, cool emotional scene, and Lion Cat steals the absolute show. Like, Cat, when the lying where she knows he's lying but doesn't know what about. I love the look on Lion Cat's face in that panel where they're standing across from each other, and, like, Lion Cat is just, like, awkwardly sitting there.
Oh yeah, like stuck in the middle.
It's hilarious. Yeah. Like,
and then we get Lion Cat and Sweet Boy kind of sniffing each other when they first, which is such a, like, just the fact that Lion Cat is never not a cat. He's literally always just like a sentient cat. Which also, by the way, like, fucking Lion Cat choosing Sophie over the Will. What a cat fucking move. Yeah. Like, what a fucking cat thing to do there. Fucking predictable. But I mean, even with one of my favorite parts of this scene is Gwendolyn says, Sophie says, "So now we're collaborating with Landfall?" And Gwendolyn says, "No, for the good of Wreath, we're strategically coordinating with associates of opposition forces on actions involving a third-party world." And Lion Cat just, like, groans.
Yeah.
Just, like, growls in that, like, Lion Cat can't call out bullshit on that one, but also knows it's bullshit, even though it's not technically bullshit.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I love that. I also just love, like, the Will looks so devastated when Lion Cat, like, chooses Sophie, and when Sophie doesn't go with him. Like, clearly, it's this small little scene, but clearly you have this sense that, like, he had an idea as to how this was going to go, and like he comes in, like he seems so like kind and like, you know, it seems like he's in relatively good spirits in the first half of this scene, and then he leaves just devastated.
I mean, that's the thing, is that since you know, he has his sort of proposition, like, you know how he saw this scene going in his mind. Like, it is probably like, I'm going to show up at sunset, like, arrive from the, you know, and it's going to be magic. Or, like, had this going a specific way in his head, and then everything just falls apart. And the fact that literally everyone in this scene is sad at the end of this scene is just so devastating. Like, it did not work out for anyone involved. I will say, though, the scene lost a little bit of impact for me just because I read the last line as "good luck with your pot licking, ladies," which threw me for a fucking loop.
Good luck with your pot licking.
It's like, yeah, fucking tell him. What a fucking bird at the end there. Go lick some fucking pots, you losers.
It's also like the palette of this it's so like complementary to the like dark blues of everything happening on Fang. Like, it's this like warm kind of like, you know, like juxtaposition to the cool danger on Fang is just this like warm, sad sunset place.
Yeah, and then just that like it feels so much more vulnerable since they're literally just in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
Like if this happened in a crowded restaurant, I think it would not have the emotional impact, but it just like it feels like, I mean, everyone's literally out in the open. Like, it just feels so emotionally raw because of that. But yeah, it hurt.
Yeah.
Well, we're just under that tight 39 here, Noah. So let's bring it on home.
We start on an exterior shot of Fang closing in on the horrific maw of the time suck. The march is standing out, warning people to come out of the tree before they kill Curdy. Hazel is hiding behind rubble and panicking when Jabara and Petrichor show up, and Jabara shushes her. Alana walks out of the tree with the laser rifle, threatening, "Hurt the boy and I separate you two painfully." We gotta do a highlight of just great Saga threats, because there's a lot of good threats.
I mean, especially Alana with her one-liners.
Yeah. The March says that they have no idea how much the Moonies are willing to spend to have Marco and Alana killed. Alana tries to bluff her way into a deal, but the March reaches for their sword, pressing a button to transform it into a whip that they then lash around Alana. Hazel bites Jabara's finger and runs out, casting her Explodies spell, which causes the little firebugs to explode. The distraction allows Curdy to slip out and run away, but the March says, "Cute prank, shorty. Now get your narrow butt down here and kiss your mama goodbye." But as they say goodbye, a green sniper tracer appears on their head. We turn the page to a brutal, gory splash of the March being torn apart by green lasers. As they lay there dying, we kind of get a montage of everyone in the scene looking shocked as we get some Hazel narration that reads, "The late D. Oswald Heist," Lauper nominated D. Oswald Heist to you, Hazel.
Not a winner, though.
"The late D. Oswald Heist said that the opposite of war is fucking, but I'm not so sure. Especially because violence seems to have so much in common with an untreatable venereal disease. It burrows deep inside of everyone it touches, flaring up again to hurt others." We turn the page and see a splash page of Marco, bloody and holding the smoking laser gun. The narration concludes, "Until the day it finally consumes its host." Oof!
Yeesh.
Oof, John! Oof. And
This feels like such a fucking defeat in their
Yeah.
winning here.
yeah. Yeah, and Marco looks just so, I don't even know what that expression is, like conflicted, hurt, like
Yeah, it's not even like, I don't even know if it's conflicted at this point. It seems like
resigned.
it's him admitting, admitting to himself that, this thing that he's been preaching this whole time, he just had to break it out of necessity.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. It's this scene's this is you mentioned Chekhov's gun earlier. This is such good setup and payoffs. There's the gun that they find that pays off here. There's the bugs that Hazel was exploding. And it's interesting because, again, like, Hazel was lectured by Isabel for exploding the bugs for that violence. And that violence saves Curdy and ends up saving everyone because of Marco. It's also just this... I really like how they do the death of the march, because this is not violence that looks cool. This is one of those Saga panels that is just gory and painful.
Yeah, I mean, especially the proceeding panel, too.
Yeah.
One of the heads still alive,
Yeah.
talking to the dead head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, I really think, like, in a weird way, because we don't really talk about this in reference to adults often, but this is kind of the death of Marco's innocence, it feels like.
Yeah, like this
he's losing that one optimistic part in him.
Yeah.
That was his way of coping with the things he'd done.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like
rough.
that this whole arc has been a real like conversation about violence and the necessity of violence, and Marco throughout has been kind of this stalwart force, arguing against it, and then he is the one that in the end needs to enact this violence to save his family.
Yeah, but also in the same way that I was distracted by the how nice the grass looked at the last splash of last episode. This fit.
Yeah.
I want this as a workout outfit was my immediate thought turning this page.
I like basically have this as a lounging around that. If you change those pants into navy blue instead of green, that's like essentially what I'm wearing right now.
I was like, it's fucking New Year. Everyone's exercising. Get this on the Saga shop.
I love the smoke coming from the gun. Like, it's so cool. God, what a scene. And like all of that happens, and the start of the scene reminds you that they are still flying toward a fucking time suck.
Fucking, like, yeah,
the most
we're
ominous establishing shot ever.
We just took out, the Silver Surfer while we're flying towards fucking Galactus right now. Like, it fucking sucks. Also, we talked before about, are the meerkats, like, creepy or are they cute? I'm going to go on record. This fucking hand coming over Hazel's mouth
is creepy.
Is hyper creepy.
That's a witch hand. That's a witch hand.
I looked at that and I was like, what is this monster? I don't care about the march anymore. What is this nightmare that's grabbing her? That upset me.
God, yeah, what a showdown. What an intense scene and sequence. And again, there's just like the time suck there. Like, just this reminder of the impermanence of all of this, and it almost dwarfs the violence.
I mean, and again, that's, so much of the book to be able to put it in that context of, like, even, why does, it really puts into, like, it's one of those times we talk about how, this book constantly challenges these beliefs, and it's so interesting to see the way in which Marco's belief was challenged, and it just it wasn't about, like, finding a satisfying solution to it storytelling wise. It's literally just like Marco realized, at least in his mind, that was wrong. This kind of absolute that he had in his mind was wrong, and he needed to protect his family, which just throws a wrench into everything you're feeling reading this book and the things you're taking away from this book. And yeah, it's a fucking it's a bombshell, dude.
Yep.
Also, just an interesting, I like the little parallel. I like flipping back and forth between the first page, the opening splash, and the closing splash. It feels like a reverse shot.
Yeah, that's true.
Where it's literally saying, here are the stakes of this issue. Everyone's going to die. And here is the response, the cause and effect.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite moment, John?
Favorite moment has got to be, you know what? I really like, we didn't talk about this specific shot too much, but I really like the shot of Lion Cat kind of hiding behind Sophie.
Yeah.
And that use of negative space there to not just imply this is where Lion Cat came from, like a nice little visual thing, but also just like that empty feeling.
Yeah.
Literally in the Will's direction, that emptiness there, and also just the same kind of awkward sadness in Sophie's body language and stuff. Like, yeah, that's just fucking heart-wrenching.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go from the same scene. I think the Will and Sweet Boy showing up is my like just the sunset at his back, the you're all grown up, just oh my heart, John.
He cared for once, and he had hopes for once. Like, that's the thing. Like, he literally, we just saw how hard it was for him to tear himself away from the lifestyle he had, and this was his reason for doing that, and then to see that all fall apart. It's
okay.
Good.
I'm sure he's gonna realize he's okay and retire.
He's gonna bounce back,
and
baby.
Just live it out with Sweet Boy.
Here
and no
comes
one
the rebound
else will
right
get
now.
Hurt.
If you look in the distance in the field here, you can see really small, just a real hot lady that he's walking towards.
Just a hot lady with a hot pup for Sweet Boy.
It's the stock with a big old bandage on her rib cage. She's fine. Oh god. No, how about a song for this one?
So because this issue is kind of talking about fictionalized violence and portrayals of violence in media, I'm going to pick a song that in general is very on theme for Saga, and I feel like I've picked it before, but I looked through the playlist and don't see it.
Violence by Blink-182?
No. Violent Pornography by System of a Down.
Nice.
Cuz I mean, if that's not a description of Saga, I don't know what is.
You know what? I'm gonna pick one here. This is gonna be actually. Also, I'm gonna. We're slowly making this playlist something I want to listen to, just barely. I feel like we've upped our game a little bit recently, but I'm gonna say here's one that works for the last two scenes. I'm gonna say "Back to Black" by Amy Winehouse. Of Marco kind of regressing here and going back to a place that he really, really, really did not want to.
Yeah.
And, you know, wherever the Will's going, I'm sure it'll be a fun old time. But,
yeah, I could see the Will walking away to the sunset to Back to Black there. That's a good
Both
call.
of them are going to their vinyl record.
You only said goodbye with words.
These two guys are gonna go cry now for sure. Finally, do we have a question of the week, Noah?
Just
make one up. Just make
one
up, dude.
I do have one. Did Marco do the right thing?
Ooh, shit.
Like, that's I think that's kind of the the big question of this
Yeah.
issue, right? And in general of this arc.
Right behind, where do I get that fit though?
Yeah, right behind where do I get that fit? That's the one.
Actually,
John.
let's just skip your question.
Yep, good call.
Just paste links into the YouTube comments because I'm sure those will work fine and YouTube will love them. No, I'm gonna say I really like your question. I'm also gonna add onto this just as like a nice little. I want to get more advice from our listeners. I'm a guy that likes advice. So when you feel like you're
need it. I don't even know. Is it what sort of an insult that is?
Yeah, or you don't? What?
Yeah, you seem like the kind of person that needs advice. You soy boy.
Hey, fuck you, dude. I'm gonna say, if let's say you are in hopefully not the fucking position that Marco or the Will are in here, but when you feel yourself kind of regressing back to like that emotional pit, where you feel like you're going down that spiral a little bit. What are your go-tos to kind of get you energized, pull you out of that pit? That's what I want to know. Emotional go-tos, your escape ropes. That's what I'll call it. So 2 big ones. Remember, leave comments on it'll be the pinned tweet if you're listening to this right after it comes out, where you can respond to, or just the YouTube video.
Are we just gonna have a giant get caught up to all of the question of the week things once we're caught up?
You fucking know it, baby.
Oh, baby.
I mean, we'll be down to, like 8 episodes a year or however many issues will be coming out a year at that point. So we'll have plenty of filler stuff to do.
Fill. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In general, I was thinking in this issue, like we talked early in the conception of this of sometime doing like character study episodes, and once we're caught up, I really want to do a whole kind of character arc focus on Marco specifically, because I feel like this arc is kind of like without spoiling anything that happens to him, clearly it's pretty integral to what's going to happen in the future, and it's a pretty it's a pretty key point in his character arc. I'll say that. I'll leave it at that because I'm not going to spoil anything. But we will do spoilery conversations and talk about some stuff there.
Well, my assumption for the next issue was he just tosses the gun and is like, "Whew, that was crazy, guys, huh?" And then he's just like, "All right, back to no weapons."
No, I think
and then he just goes as normal.
I think he takes the John Rambo arc and just spins off into comics of him just gunning down people.
It just becomes just a fun action thing.
Yeah, and completely ignores the message of what the original piece of work was trying to say.
That's why they stopped for so long in the middle. They were just like, wait a second, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, what the fuck?
The last fucking 13 issues of that was just him fucking killing everyone. With a cigar in his mouth? I don't understand.
I mean, I just want that because we'll get more shirtless Marco, and anytime shirtless Marco is on the page, I am a happy reader.
There we go. All right, Noah, by my count, we're just
tight 39?
at 30. We're at 35 minutes, so if you just want to vamp for a good 4 minutes. I've been counting on my fingers the time, so I assume it's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
But
all 39 of your fingers.
Dude, I can count how many. I count the 10s on my toes.
No, John just has 39 fingers. Like, not extra hands or anything, just 2 hands. That's so horrific. That's so horrific.
You should fucking see me on the piano. Though. I'm fucking
unreal. Just unreal.
It's not even music at that point. It's like an acoustic tapestry. Noah, fucking get us out of this thing, please.
Well, I want to thank Brian K. Vaughan.
Okay, go ahead, go for it. Yeah.
I want to thank Fiona Staples, though we do have some notes for you. I want to thank the wonderful folks at Image Comics, and of course, I did not forget about I did. Wait, I did not forget about the master of the Wunk Kalank phonographics.
Mr. Wonky Kalank himself.
And John, should I say it, or are you gonna say it? How we gonna sign this off?
Well, that depends on one question. Am I shitting? Bye. Tight 39.